Attention all Dunder Mifflin employees, please. We have a meeting in the conference room ASAP.
Welcome to the Third Win channel, where today we're going to be counting down the 5 most viewed episodes of The Office. The data for the video will be based on the Nielsen ratings, which report on TV show viewership. Now, without further ado, let's get into the top 5 most viewed episodes of The Office ever. The 5th most watched episode of The Office is Traveling Salesman. This was the 13th episode of Season 3 and received just over 10.1 million views in its premiere. This episode marked a pivotal moment in The Office where Dwight exits Dunder Mifflin while Andy tries to take his place. Along with this, we see the entire cast pairing up and trying to make sales, which is just very entertaining. For example, seeing the pairing of Stanley and Ryan cracks me up every time. Traveling Salesman also amped up the game between Dwight and Angela. Seeing Dwight make that heroic move and keep her word was really heartwarming. All those elements combined make for a big episode, and I think the viewership shows that. At number 4, the 4th most watched episode of The Office was The Return. This was the 14th episode of Season 3 and got 100,000 more views than the previous episode, 10.2 million. Now, I think it's no surprise that after Dwight's shock exit, people wanted to see what would happen next. The aftermath of the previous episode is in full effect. Seeing Dwight in a new job was really entertaining, and then seeing Andy try to take over Dwight's position is really great because we also get to see Jim prank him, which obviously leads to a very iconic scene of him punching a wall. Michael slowly understanding how important Dwight was to the office, as well as what he did to protect Angela, was really great to see, especially when he goes to Staples and admits it to Dwight and tells him how important he is and that he wants him to come back. This episode also brings the end of Karen and Jim's relationship, so that's a big deal. A great closer for the Dwight versus Andy saga, and I always have the ringtone stuck in my head after watching this one. Now into our top 3, the 3rd most watched episode of The Office is The Injury. This was the 12th episode of Season 2 and it did 10.3 million viewers. I couldn't tell you why this episode specifically got this amount of views, but I will tell you it's one of my favorites in terms of humor. I think this episode is hilarious. There's something about Michael calling himself a cripple because he burned his foot, and then calling in a man in a wheelchair and comparing himself to him, which is just mind-bogglingly funny to me. I'll never get over it. The dueling injuries of the not-so-serious foot injury and the actual serious concussion that Dwight gets is a very fun mixture where it just kind of pops in and out. We have Dwight's injury and we have Michael's injury, and they kind of complement each other perfectly. Although Dwight isn't quite right in the head, he kind of begins his relationship as a friend to Pam in this episode, which I always thought was super cute. In the end, this episode is comedy genius, and it's a bit of a black sheep when it comes to this list, but I'm happy it's here. The 2nd most watched episode of The Office is Pilot. This was obviously the first episode ever, and it did 11.2 million viewers. The pilot for any show is kind of like a free trial. You get to try out something you had interest in, and if you don't like it, then you can stop. And in this case, it seems about half the people who watched this pilot stopped watching, which means that The Office probably had some kick-ass adverts for when it first started. In this pilot, we get to see almost a scene-by-scene comparison with the British version, and overall the story is quite exciting with the threat of a downsizing for this branch, and we get to see some very great character introductions, with the focus of course on the world's best boss, Michael. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the most watched episode of The Office is Stress Relief. This is the 14th and 15th episode of Season 5 and it did 22, almost 23 million views. Now, first of all, an explanation for the viewership amount, and of course it's an amazing episode. I think I'd put it in my top 10 anyway, but it got 22 million because it aired right after the Super Bowl. But the episode is filled with iconic moments, from Dwight removing the dummy mask to the fire and the craziness that ensues after that, Stanley's heart attack. All these things just make this episode so iconic. As if we didn't have enough craziness and fun in this episode, we also get the roast of Michael Scott, which is just brilliant. I could go on and on, but you've got what you came here for. You now know the 5 most watched episodes of The Office. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please subscribe if you did to the Third Win channel. But for those of you who watch me every day, I'll see you guys tomorrow with a new video, and yeah, bye.